So now we have installed the Vault, and I was telling you that whenever the Vault gets installed, it takes the complete takeover of the firewall. So the firewall we have for the Vault for this server, like this one. So you can see there are only few rules over here. Okay, there is only the traffic which is allowed as of now is only limited to the CyberArk rule. Okay, I mean the allowed or legit traffic which seems like allowed from the firewall is only limited to 1858 port. Okay, and ping, ICMP refers to ping. So if I will ping this server, I can get the ping responded just to check if the server is up. Only that traffic is allowed. And the second is 1858. 1858 is the main port of CyberArk deployment. So whatever the incoming traffic, that is only limited to 1858. Now going onwards, whenever we have to add any kind of traffic, let's say if I want to allow any port into my Vault server, I will not be able to do it from this particular console. If I were to do that, let's say if I were to allow something, add a port over here, it won't work. Though you can add it, but it won't be operational at all. So let's say if I want to integrate my mailing server SMTP. So SMTP requires certain port as well. I'm not sure what is the port number for that. Yeah, it's TCP 25. So if I want to send any communication to my SMTP, that is 25 port, I won't be able to do so. Reason being that only 1858 port is allowed, and this firewall console has no relevance at all, because anything now onwards would be governed by CyberArk configuration file, not from this console. So whenever you install the Vault, it performs the hardening. Okay. Now we were discussing about the hardening part yesterday, what exactly the hardening is all about, and what it does. So I will show you the hardening logs, like what happened to our Vault and what are the different things that took place during the course of installation. Let me just navigate to that path where we can see that. So this is the hardening log, guys. This is something that, whatever the changes that it has done yesterday, this refers in the hardening logs. So you can see Windows network devices were successfully hardened. What does it mean? That none of the traffic inbound or outbound would be allowed to our Vault server. And network devices are successfully hardened means, like whatever the rules which were not needed or whatever the features which were not needed. Let me just navigate to that. First and foremost, we have purposely uninstalled all the features or roles which were not needed. Also, on top of it, if anything else is there, whatever the additional network adapters we might be having, that would also be hardened during the course of this hardening process. Okay, so we will not be able to move in, move out any kind of files from the Vault at all. So it has done these following steps: harden network devices, hardening Windows security, hardening Windows local server security, harden Windows firewall. So all of these things were taken care by this hardening part. So when we say the local security, whatever the accounts that were there in this server locally, that I had this test PAM2 that was created here locally. I purposely created it just to show you. Let me just navigate to that. So these were the these were the accounts that were created in this server. Okay. Now once the hardening happens, as a part of hardening, it has disabled this particular account. If you were to see the status over here, you can see account is disabled. So this is as per the process of hardening. Only the administrator, which is the local administrator of this server, is not disabled. Apart from that, whatever the accounts that were created earlier, they are all disabled as a part of hardening. So we do not want any kind of accessibility on this server apart from the administrator one. You can see this test PAM 2 is disabled, test PAM 1 is disabled, default account is disabled, skipping user administrator. So only skip administrator was skipped, guest was disabled. It has emptied group as well. So whatever the groups we have, whatever the users there in this group, they were emptied as well. That means whatever the users that we have in this particular group, these groups, backup user, certificate service decom, cryptographic operation, distributed com. So this is something not relevant for the vault functioning. We don't want any accounts to be sitting in those particular groups. So ideally they were all emptied. I mean, none of the users were were basically appearing in this particular groups, and it will perform a basic check. If something is appearing in this group, it will simply disable or delete those users. So this is a part of local security hardenings where we will just limit the administrator, nothing apart from that. Then you can see start hardening Windows firewall, stopping firewall, setting blocking method, deleting all firewall rules. So whatever the firewall rules are there. Ideally, once you install any kind of server, you would have lot of firewall rules. So if we were to refer some server for an example, if you were to refer some firewall rules in some server, you will see there, once you install any server, there are a lot of firewall rules happens. But once the hardening performs, the CyberArk hardening happens in the world, it will limit all the firewall rules to just 1858. So I'm just logging into a normal DC server here, and we see the difference. So now here you can see it's a normal server. There are a lot of firewall rules open. That means we have a lot of inbound and outbound traffic open to this. You can see there is a lot of inbound traffic. This much number of ports are already open. This number ports of outbound traffic is already open. But in the case of our vault, we are just limited to this 1858. That's all it is. So this is a part of hardening wherein we will limit the firewall rules. We do not want any kind of traffic to come inside or anything to go outside of our vault. Okay. And also we are making sure that it's not the vault server is not discoverable in the network. So we have purposely uninstalled some sort of protocols yesterday as a part of NIC card hardening. So we have, if you remember, we have basically uninstalled these things yesterday. We have just limited it to IPv4 and IPv6. So this is called the hardening. Now we have during the course of installation we have used operator CD and the master CD. What was it? So this was the operator CD and master CD. Okay. So the main console of the vault is this. This is the console wherein you can see the status whether the vault is running or not. You can see this server is up. That means all services are up and running. Okay. So this is as per the operator CD. In the operator CD, we have something called server key. If I just open up operator CD over here, and if I go it with the date modified, so you can see there is something called server key. Server key is needed whenever you start the vault service. So whenever you start the vault service, it will always locate the server key. As long as the server key is available, you would be able to restart your vault. Then there is there is something called apart from that, these keys are basically created These keys are basically, the part of your operator CD, and the upper keys are created during the course of installation. So these keys were created afterwards. Once we install the vault, these keys would be automatically created. This is backup key, replication user password, vault emergency password. Now, just like whenever you install any Windows server, you would have you would be seeing that, there is an administrator account created, because it will prompt you to create a administrator account through which you can access the Windows server. Similarly, when the Vault application is installed, there is an administrator user at the application level that is created as well. Now, as of now, we have not installed the private R client through which we can access the vault. So what we will do, we will also install the private R client. This is the setup for the private R client. I will just install it quickly. Then we will navigate through the vault. What exactly are the safes? What are the different services which are added up? And we will see the functioning of each and every service, what it does. Let me reboot this machine. Now you can see there is an icon added here, which is called the private R client. Private R client is nothing but an application to access your vault. So whatever the safes or users that are created in the application, that can be accessible from this private R client. Let me just log in here. So you can see there are three safes created during the course of installation: notification engine, system, vault internal. That will I tell you later. The thing that we will discuss here now, if I go to tools, administrative tools, users and groups. Okay, so these are the basically the users that are created. First is the administrator through which you can access your vault server. Okay, then there is an auditor, batch, master, notification engine. So I will discuss later about this users, but in the meantime I'll just tell you, administrator, as the name suggests, it has all the rights. You can see that it has all the rights. We will discuss that, what the right refers to and what permissions it provides once this is granted to some user. So administrator is the topmost user, because it has all the rights on the vault. Okay, it can perform anything, just like we have a Windows administrator or a domain administrator that has all the rights. Similarly, we have a vault administrator which has all the rights. So in a rare case, if your administrator password is lost, okay, let's say if I make some sort of a five wrong attempts and my password gets locked out, so there is a user called master user. Okay, master user is needed to recover your administrator account password. So it's just like the local IT help desk. In case if my password is lost, or maybe I am unable to recall my password, I will call up the local IT help desk. They will see reset it, and they will ask me to log in with a default password. Same is the case with administrator master as well. In case if you logged out your administrator password, you can log in with the master password and you can reset it. The only condition is like you should have the master CD available. So we have, if you remember, we have transferred the master CD over here. What master CD has? Master CD has a private key, recovery private key. This is the recovery private key, which is needed to recover the administrator password. Okay, so if I were to reset my administrator password, I need to insert the master CD on my vault server, and then I can log in with the master user, and then I can reset the administrator user. This is the reason why we have the master CD and we have the operator the CD. In the operator CD, we have a server key which is needed whenever I restart the server. Okay, now moving on to the services that we have. What are the services which gets added? Now, one more thing as a part of hardening, the hardening will also downsize the number of running services. So let's say if I see the status over here, these much services are running. Okay. Now, whenever you install any kind of Windows server, you would have lots of services running. For an example, if we see a normal server like an AD server, you can see there are a lot of services running here. Okay, there is a full column of services which is running over here. This is a normal server, but when you see on the vault, it's only 36 services are running. Okay, so as a part of the hardening, it stops and disables the services which are not needed for the vault functioning. Okay, so we would have the CyberArk services, that is the vault services, and some other services which are needed for the server functioning. Like you can see this private database service is CyberArk service. Private server is CyberArk service. Some more with the CyberArk name. CyberArk event notification engine. This is needed for sending the emails to your SMTP server. So that is the purpose of this CyberArk event notification. CyberArk hardened Windows firewall. This is for hardening the firewall, that we have seen that it will now onwards the firewall would be governed by the CyberArk here. CyberArk logic container. So these are the CyberArk services. Apart from that, there are very few services which are running over here. Okay, there are only few services which are running as a part of vault functioning, because the hardening has downsized the number of running services. So once you install the vault, you would have only 3 saves created. Okay, and you would have these users created that we have discussed: administrator, auditor. The black ones are basically the groups, and the gray ones are basically the users in under that group. Okay. So these black ones are basically backup users is a group. Backup is a user. In case if I want to generate a backup of my vault, whatever the things which are getting updated in the vault, if I want to replicate that in some other remote server, I would require a backup user. DR user is something if I want to, again, a DR is again just like a backup. If I want to replicate everything on a DR side, so I would require a DR user to do that part. So we would be doing that in the upcoming sessions, that how you can generate the backup and the DR, replicate metadata and data into the DR side, that we will perform. So for that, for doing it, we would require the users as appropriate. Users will basically do that task for us. Then we have Vault admin group. Just like we have local administrator group, we have Vault admin group, we have backup group, we have auditor group. So every group or every user has its own rights. If I were to do some admin level activities, I need to be member of this Vault admin group. If I want to do some sort of audit activity, I need to be member of this group. So what are these audit activities and what is the admin activities, we will see in the upcoming sessions. As of now, this is an interface for the Vault, and we have seen there are certain services which are added, and rest of the services are basically disabled and stopped. Now, what is the configuration file of the Vault? So, and how I can add the firewall rule? Let's say we have seen that it's only limited to 1858. If I were to add any kind of firewall rule for my own integration purpose, how would I be allowing the traffic? So the main configuration file of your Vault is the db param. I will just navigate to that. So this is the folder, or I would say the directory in which you have installed the Vault. We have configuration, database, event notification engine, hardening, LDAP, logic container, log, syslog, and everything. That these are the utilities that we will discuss as well. And if I go to configuration, so this is the main configuration of the Vault called the DB param. If I just open it up, okay, you can see there are a lot of things over here. This is the date format in which the date would be appearing. So whatever the logs would be generated or reports would be generated, they would follow the date format. This is the time format. Resident delay I will tell later. This is the base port. So whatever the communication that Vault does with the components or component does with the Vault, that would happen through 1858 port. That is the main port of the Vault, 1858. This is the log retention period. So after 7 days, the logs would be archived. Archived, it will not be deleted, but it will be archived after 7 days. Log timeout is 30 minutes. So if I make my session, idle for some time, let's say if I have logged into this, private R client, if I log into this private R client and I make my session idle for some time, so it will eventually be logged out. Days for auto clear is 30. So after 30 days, the logs would be auto cleared. Vault event notification, I'll tell you later. Now you can see the recovery public key path is there. Okay. What is recovery public key? It is a part of demo operator CD. So there are certain keys which are created in the operator CD once you install it, and the path of them is specified in the DB param. So you can see there is recovery public key. Recovery public key is something which was created. Here you can see. This is called recovery public key. Then server key is also appearing in the same folder. Server key is also in the operator CD. Here you can see the server key. So the path is there because whenever you reboot your server, the Vault server, or whenever you restart your services, it will look after these keys. If the keys are not available or keys are somewhere deleted or something happens, you will not be able to bring up your Vault services at all. This is important keys actually. Then there is a local server certificate. Server certificate is this, like whenever you install the Vault, you would see a certificate created. Okay, it is just for the security purpose that a local signed certificate is created. Show you something here. So there is a utility which will show you the certificate. CSAT. So now you can see this is a certificate which was self-signed by this, and whenever you install the Vault, a certificate would be created. It is locally signed, as you can see, self-signed certificate. Okay. So this is a part of Vault installation. A certificate is created. This is the certificate. Then server private key. Okay, this is again appearing in server private key, is also appearing in the operator CD. You can see the path over here. This is an operator CD. Now coming back to the firewall rules that I was referring, whenever you want to add any kind of firewall rule, that has to be defined in this DB param. If I want to allow any port which should be allowed from my Vault server to some target system, maybe if I were to do some sort of integration with the SMTP, or if I want to do any integration with my this thing, SIM server, or anything with monitoring thing. So that has to be done through this DB param. I have to add a firewall rule over here. Let me show you. So if you notice, there are three types of DB param. The first is DB param. This is a main. Then there is a DB param.ini and there is a DB param.sample. Why we have three copies? So the first one, which is called DB param, is the main DB param of our vault. The second one is like the good one. So let's say if I make any kind of changes in the DB param, and I have, the changes were not as appropriate or not for not as per the best practices. So in that case, my vault services won't come up. Just to show you, what I'll do, I purposely add something like this. Okay, this is not something a right way of adding, and it is very critical file, because if you messed up with this file, you will not be able to bring up your vault server at all, and entire your CyberArk would be down because everything is dependent on the vault. So let me make these changes. Save. Now if I go to a vault console over here, I'll restart the vault service. Firstly, I'll stop it. Now you can see that firewall is close to client communication as well. So the firewall is entirely governed by CyberArk. That means whenever the CyberArk is down or the vault service is down, the firewall is also closed. When CyberArk vault service were up, you can see that firewall is open for client communication. That means now the vault is managing the firewall. Okay, everything is dependent on the CyberArk services. If I restart this vault service, it won't come because we have added some uh, inappropriate characters into the DB param. You can see server terminated, invalid parameter line, because we have added something which is not as appropriate. In the DB param, at last we have something called this thing, which is causing the conflict. Now let's say I am not aware what I have done. Okay, I have done something, but I am not aware. So this dbparam.ini.good is nothing but just like we have in Windows, you might have seen we have last known good configuration. It basically captures an image of last time when the server was rebooted successfully or your system was rebooted successfully and you were able to log in successfully. So dbparam.ini.good is serving the same purpose. It will capture the last time when the server or the application was brought up successfully. So we will replace this with this one. I will just mark it. I will just rename it once underscore old, and for dbparam.ini, I will just rename it to dbparam.ini.good. I will remove this good here and I will replace it with dbparam.ini. Okay. Now if I try to start the service, you can see that server is up. Okay, so dbparam.ini.good is basically the last known good configuration. So if you messed up with anything, you would see that you have a chance to roll back to the good one. So whenever you restart your vault service, it will always create a dbparam.good file. You can see that now again a dbparam.good is created. So it has recorded the last known time when the vault service got up without any issues. The sample one is basically the reference file. You can check that what needs to be added, or how it needs to be added. It will show you the right way of adding something. Let's say there are a lot of things you can see here. So these are the integrations that you can perform here. PKI secure ID for authentication purpose. You can specify the details over here. You can do the syslog integration for the SIM server. HSM also. HSM I will explain you later what HSM is all about. But basically this will give you a reference value that how many types of things that you can specify in what way. So the key thing is here is that I wanted to show you is about the firewall rule. If I were to add any kind of firewall rule, how would I do that? So this is how the firewall rules get added. Allow non-standard firewall rule, the IP in which you want to the one you that you want to allow, the port number or a range of ports. So here we are allowing a range like from 7937 to 7938. There are two ports being allowed here. We are allowing inbound traffic. We are allowing an outbound traffic. Okay, so we have allowed like TCP traffic till here. Okay, then again we have allowed outbound traffic, TCP traffic till here, and we have allowed inbound UDP traffic as well and inbound UDP traffic as well. So this is how you can add a firewall rule, and now through the DV param, all of your firewall rule would be governed. If you want to add any inbound and outbound traffic, that should go through DB param. You need to specify that in this way. So this is the main configuration file of your vault. So now you might have seen that the hardening is something which basically restricts anything. We cannot install anything, and you might have seen that we have the monitoring happens in every server. Whether the servers are having the good amount of memory, whether the service server is having a good amount of CPU utilization, whether they have a good amount of RAM or not. But in case of Vault, we will not be able to do that because there is no scope of installing any kind of software. In organization we have different agents that are installed on the servers just to monitor them, but there is no feasibility in the world because we don't have anything like that. The hardening won't allow us to do that. So how the monitoring would happen? So monitoring would happen with the SNMP traps. SNMP traps is basically a supported technology from CyberArk through which you can perform the monitoring of your vault server. If I were to see these parameters, let me just show you. If I were to see here, what is the CPU utilization of my vault? What is the memory? Okay, what are the different not like that. Yeah, what are the different services which are running on my vault? How would I be able to do? Because I will not be able to install anything on this. Okay, and if I were to see these things along with the disk space, the C drive space, which is this, how much disk space is available on my vault server? How would I be able to do that? So this is done by the SNMP traps. SNMP traps is basically the CyberArk utility, or I would say it's not a CyberArk utility, but it's a kind of technology through which you can do the monitoring of any server. So if you remember that we have basically transferred the vault setup files. So if I just open it up, this is the vault setup file called server. There are two files, CyberArk MIB1, MIB-V1, CyberArk MIB-V2. What are these files? These are nothing but it is intended for the monitoring purpose. You need to share it with your monitoring team. Okay, they will basically, they will basically be able to identify your vault server, and there is something called SNMP traps. SNMP traps are basically sent to the monitoring server regarding your server parameters. So what are the server parameters? Server parameters are nothing but just like this is the configuration file for the monitoring PA agent. So here you can see this is the threshold value. This is the threshold value. We have CPU utilization which is 90%, three times in 30 seconds it will shoot up an alert. Let's say if my CPU utilization goes, as of now it's only 6%. Let's say it shoot up to 90%. In 30 seconds it will check whether it remains 90%. Again it will check in 30 seconds whether it still remains at 90%. Again in 30 seconds it will change, it will remain at 90%. If it remains at 90% for some time, maybe for a minute, it will shoot up an alert to the monitoring server. It will send it SNMP trap once the threshold is achieved, that now the CPU utilization is hiking up or rising up beyond the threshold value. Same goes for physical memory. If the physical memory goes beyond 90%, in 30 seconds, three times it will shoot up an alert. Swap memory goes 90%, three times 30 seconds, it will shoot up an alert. Disk space 85%. Service. So what are the services which we are monitoring here? We are monitoring these services: Private Arc Database, CyberArk Logic Container. These are the two services which are monitoring. Okay. Now, why we are monitoring this CyberArk Database service here and Logic Container service here? So I just show you. The main service of the Vault is Private Arc client, Private Arc server service, through which your complete Vault is running. This is the main service. Private Arc server service is the main service of your Vault. If this service goes down, that means your Vault is down. If I go to the properties here, there is a dependency of this service called CyberArk Logic Container. If the CyberArk Logic Container goes down, my Vault service would also go down. If I go to CyberArk Logic, this thing, Logic Container now, this is a CyberArk Logic Container. For CyberArk Logic Container, the dependent service is database. So in case if these two services are messed up, your Vault would be down. So that's the reason why we are monitoring these two services, Private Arc Database and Private Arc Logic Container. If these services are basically restarted or something happens, you will have a SNMP notification on your monitoring server. So this is the main configuration file called poweragent.ini. This is the second file. The first file we have seen is dbparam. The second file is the poweragent.ini. The third file is passpam. In the passpam, we have the complexity of the password, like how the password would look like. What would be the complexity of the password? You can see that, uh, minimum alphabetic, minimum numeric, minimum punctuation, minimum length, must mixed character, yes. So this is the complexity. Passpam is nothing but the password minimum password complexity that CyberArk should support. If something goes below this password complexity, it will not support. So it will prompt you to add more characters, or maybe complex, make the password string more complex. Then tspam is again the third configuration file, wherein you have the path of your saves. This is the path of saves, C colon private arc saves, there where all of my saves are sitting. Okay, this is in setting in the C drive. So in case if I want to change a directory to a different drive, I have to make changes in the tspam. Tspam will basically have the details where exactly the saves are sitting. So it's just like one time thing that you need to refer. It's very uncommon to get it changed in the later stage. Then we have vault.ini. Vault.ini is nothing but it indicates the path, it indicates the IP address of your vault. So here, since we are on the vault itself, it's coming up as a loopback address, the local IP 127.0.0.1. So these are all the configuration file, and that is the license. So in the license, we will get to know that how many the components we can install up to, how many users we can add in CyberArk. So this is the license. Okay, these are all the things that I can install up to AIM account, a CPM account, PVW. These are the number of components that I can install up to. So this is the configuration folder. Okay, this is all, these all files are configuration folder. Now if I go to log folder over here, log folder is something which will tell you the logs of the CyberArk. So the main log file of Vault is the ITA log. Whenever you restart or stop the Vault service, it would be indicated in the Vault. Now you can see that here itself it also indicating that firewall is closed. Whenever you stop the service of the vault, you can see the vault server has normally terminated, and you can see that firewall is closed to client communication. So this will indicate the same thing whatever which is being there on the vault console here. So whatever the things which are there in the vault console, the same things are indicated in the ITA log. So this is the main log file of your vault. Whenever something happens to the vault, you will always refer the ITA log. Then these are the extended logs: trace 0, trace 1, trace 2, trace 3, trace 4. These are the extended logs. Okay. This is something, let's say if you are not able to identify something through on the basis of ITA log, you need to refer this trace 0, D1, D2, D3. You can enable them. So you can enable them by this thing. Ideally, this should not be done unless CyberArk tells you. This is once you add up this thing, you need to add a value like comma separated value. This will enable these traces. So it's more of like more logs would be populated. This as of now you can see only trace D0 is populated, but once you enable them, you will see as trace D1, trace D2, trace D3, D4 would also be populated.